Hello, in this video we'll continue working on lab 302, and last time we had logged on to Udesc. We already had created a pet store database and we had created the table pet and we had entered some data into the table pet. Now we will create the store table as well as the supplier table. So let's go ahead. Before we use any of our commands to create the tables, let's go ahead and make sure you have logged into Udesc. If you are continuing from the previous session, good. If not, you want to make sure that you rerun the command use pet store go. This will make sure whatever tables you are creating is going into the same database. So to create the table store, let's start out by typing a comment. So 2 dashes and I'm typing and now I'll start typing my code for the create table. So start with create table, store, then again we start the parentheses. We'll write all the columns, their data types and any constraints. So let's start with the first one is stores underscore store ID. And this is going to be int, integer, because that's what we said. All the IDs are going to be integers. And then let's apply a primary key constraint, because here in the picture you can see this is a primary key of this table, and give it a name. So the norm is that you will say pk underscore name of the table, so pk underscore store, and then we need to say that this is a primary key. Now everything about this column is done, so let's put a comma, go to the next column, which is store underscore store name. And this is a text, and we said all the text were going to be varchar 25. So let's do that. Then comma again. The next field is store address. So let me pause the video here and quickly fill this in. So for the city, again, we have varchar 25, address is varchar 25. Store state, the instructions said make it char, 2 digits only. So we did that. And see, we don't have any comma after the last column. We close the parentheses after the last column, put a semicolon to indicate that create table statement has ended. Let's do go. Hopefully this will run without the errors. So it says command completed successfully and the table is created. Here's the code for creating the supplier table. We started with the comment saying this is the code for creating the supplier table. Then we started create table statement, tbl underscore supplier. The first field is actually the primary key as indicated by the diagram. So sub underscore supplier name. We indicated that this is a primary key, gave it a constraint name pk underscore supplier. This field does not have an ID, so we just called it varchar 25 for the data type because it's a name of somebody, supplier. Then we have address and city, which are both varchar 25. Finally, the state has 2 characters, so char2. Let's go ahead and run this code. You will execute it. It should create the table. Now, since both the tables are created, you should be able to see these tables by going to the tables in the pet store database. Click on tables, and when you expand, all 3 tables are created. The next thing we need to do is to make sure that we enter data into the store table and the supplier table. To do that, you need to have this data filled in using insert into table statement into both of these tables. Let's go ahead and do that now. So I'll start out by a comment saying that I am inserting data into this table. Inserting data into store table, just so I can remember later on what this code was. So the code is going to be insert into, and then we have table name, which is tbl underscore store, and then you start the parentheses, you start typing all your column names. The column names here are store underscore store ID, comma, the next one is store name, then store address, then we have store city, then we have store state. Close the parentheses. We'll type values, the keyword values, and now remember, we need to start typing all these values from the table. Make sure anything that's integer does not need to be put in quotes. Anything that is a text needs to be in quotes. So we'll do 1 comma within quotes pet are us, quotes closed, comma, then we have within quotes 5 west Abercon, quotes closed, comma, then we have Savannah, quotes closed. Next item is the state, which is also a text, goes within quotes. That's the last field, so we can close the parentheses. To indicate that this is the end of one row, we will enter a comma, go to the next one, start typing 2, and so on. After typing the data for the second row, we'll put a semicolon in the end and type go. So this is a one insert statement with 2 rows of data. Let's go ahead and execute it. It says we may have invalid column name. So let's fix that. Let's see how we named our column. To do that, I will expand the table store on the side, go to the columns, and so everything was called store underscore. So let's do, instead of store underscore store name, and make sure the name is correct. So now let's go ahead and work on this again. This time it works. It says 2 rows affected. Now let's go ahead and start inserting data into the supplier table. So we start by insert into tbl underscore supplier. Start the parentheses, and I went ahead and listed all the columns. So we have the SUP supplier name, supplier address, supplier city, supplier state. If you want to make sure you have the names in the correct order, you may like to expand the supplier table like I have done here and expand the column so you can see the column names as you are typing them. So close the parentheses after you have entered all the column names, say values, and then we start typing the rows of data. So the first field is Smith, which is a text field. So Smith, and try to type it exactly in the manner it is given in the data, comma, the next field is an address. So 1 South dot Main Street, quotes closed, comma, the next field is the city, Jonesville, comma, the next field is the state, so NC for North Carolina, and make sure it's a single quote, close your parentheses. That's 1 full row of your data. You can enter comma, start typing the next row. So we'd start with Jones, comma, and keep on typing. So I have entered all the data here for all the addresses as well as supplier's name, address, city, supplier state, and for the last one, after the last one, I have the semicolon and go. You may pause the video anytime to see if you have the exact same data. Make sure everything looks just like it is given in the table. So once I have all these data fields, I will go ahead and execute this statement. It says 4 rows affected. It means 4 rows of data have been entered into my table. Now we have all the data in the tables. If I want to check again, let's say I can do a select star from, and let's do the supplier table real quick. So TBL underscore supplier. I can also do the same thing for the other table. So let's first execute this statement. It will list all the data in the supplier table. Then I can also copy paste real quick and do TBL underscore store to see all the data in the store table. And just run one statement at a time. You will see this is all the data in the store table. The next thing would be for us to create the foreign key constraint and the database diagram. Let's do that in the next video.